You know the scene. It's February. It's probably cold and gray outside, but everywhere you look, you see it. Bright red hearts, flowers, and boxes of chocolates. It's Valentine's Day, right? A global celebration of love. But have you ever stopped and wondered, why? I mean, where did all this come from? Is this whole thing just a big invention by greeting card companies? Or is there a much older, way more dramatic story hiding behind all those candy hearts?
Well, let me tell you, the real story of Valentine's Day is this incredible mystery that takes us thousands of years back in time. It's a tale packed with wild festivals, secret weddings, and some seriously brave heroes. So let's jump in our time machine together and uncover the true roots of this day of love. You see, the sweet, gentle holiday that we know today, the one full of hearts and roses, it has some surprisingly wild and dramatic origins. Seriously, think less about kind cards and more about brave heroes. And think less about sweet chocolates and more about, well, wild festivals. It's been through quite a transformation, and it all kicks off in ancient Rome. Okay, so our journey starts about 2,000 years ago. Forget the flowers for a second. The people of ancient Rome were getting ready for a very different kind of celebration in mid-February. A festival that, believe it or not, planted the very first seed of what would become Valentine's Day. This festival was called Lupercalia. And it was loud, it was chaotic, and it was all about the natural world. This wasn't about romantic love the way we think of it. No, this was about celebrating the coming of spring and the return of life to the world after a long winter. At its heart, Lupercalia was all about fertility. The ability to create new life. The Romans hoped that their celebrations would make sure their crops would grow strong and that their families would be healthy and grow too. It was really a festival of hope for the future. And the rituals, well, they were pretty strange by today's standards. After gathering in a sacred cave, young men would literally run through the city, gently tapping women with leather strips. And they believed this act would grant them fertility in the coming year. Definitely not your typical Valentine's date. But here's where we see the first little echo of modern romance. One of the traditions was a kind of lottery where young men and women were randomly paired up for the festival. And sometimes, these festival pairings actually led to love and even marriage. So even in this wild celebration, the idea of pairing people together in mid-February was already there. So how in the world did we go from a rowdy pagan festival to a day named after a Christian saint? Well, for that, we need to meet the man, or maybe men, named Valentine, whose legend of sacrifice for love was about to change everything.
Okay, so the most famous story goes like this. There was a Roman priest named Valentine, and the emperor at the time, Claudius II, had outlawed marriage for young men. Why? Because he thought single men made better, more focused soldiers. But Valentine saw this as just cruel and unjust, so he defied the emperor and started performing secret weddings, giving young couples a chance at happiness. Of course, secrets like that don't last forever, and he was eventually arrested and thrown in prison.
And this is where a phrase we still use today was born. Legend says that while in prison, Valentine befriended the jailer's blind daughter and miraculously healed her. Right before he was executed, he wrote her one last note of friendship and farewell, and he signed it, "From your Valentine." That very first Valentine wasn't a love poem. It was a simple, powerful message of human connection. For his defiance and for his faith, Valentine was executed. He became a martyr, which is someone who dies for what they believe in. And in his case, he became a martyr for the cause of love, a hero whose name would soon stand for something beautiful and powerful. Now, fast forward a couple of centuries. The early Christian church made a very clever move. To get people to stop celebrating the popular but pagan Lupercalia festival, Pope Gelasius declared February 14th as Saint Valentine's Day. It was a brilliant way to give an old tradition a new Christian meaning, honoring the martyr instead of the old Roman gods. But hold on. For hundreds of years, the day was actually a pretty serious religious thing. It wasn't about romance at all. To see that change, we've got to jump forward to the Middle Ages and see how a few famous poets completely reinvented the holiday and gave it the heart it has today. This timeline really helps put it all into perspective, doesn't it? You can see these different layers getting built one on top of the other. You've got the ancient festival, the saint's sacrifice, and next up, the crucial link to romance, which came over 1,000 years after the original Valentine even lived. So, the Middle Ages saw the rise of this new idea called courtly love. This wasn't the wild passion of Lupercalia, not at all. It was a polite, poetic, and respectful kind of admiration, often expressed through songs and poems. And this big cultural shift set the perfect stage for the holiday's next big transformation. The real turning point came from the famous English poet Geoffrey Chaucer. In one of his poems, he wrote a simple but totally revolutionary line that on Saint Valentine's Day, all the birds choose their mates for the year. This beautiful idea connected the saint's day with nature and the season of love, and, well, it caught on like wildfire. And pretty soon after, people began writing their own romantic notes. The oldest surviving Valentine we have is this incredibly touching poem written by Charles, Duke of Orleans, back in 1415. He was a prisoner in the Tower of London, and he wrote it to his wife, calling her his sweet Valentine. Just imagine, it was like a whisper on paper, a way for his heart to travel beyond those prison walls. And for the next 400 years or so, that's what Valentines were. These rare, personal, handwritten expressions of affection. But then, the Industrial Revolution arrived, and it was about to change everything, taking this quiet little tradition and turning it into the global phenomenon we recognize today. A couple of key things created this Valentine's revolution. First, new printing tech made mass production possible. An American entrepreneur named Esther Howland saw this opportunity and started a business creating beautiful, fancy cards. And second, the arrival of cheap postage, like the penny post, meant that for the first time, pretty much anyone, not just the wealthy, could afford to send a Valentine. And the result? Oh, it was staggering. Suddenly, millions of cards were flying through the postal system every February. It got so popular that postmen actually had to request extra help just to handle the massive volume of mail on February 14th. The tradition had officially gone mainstream. As the tradition spread across the globe, different cultures put their own unique spin on it, which is super interesting. In Japan, for instance, women give chocolate to men on Valentine's Day, and then the men return the favor a month later on something called White Day. And in South Korea, they even have a day for single friends to get together and eat black noodles, and they call it Black Day. Wow! So we've journeyed through it all. Pagan rituals, a martyred saint, medieval poetry, and a massive commercial boom. But that brings us right back to our original question. After all these transformations, why does this holiday last? What is really at the heart of the matter here?
The answer, when you really get down to it, is pretty simple. The holiday endures because the human heart doesn't really change. We all share this deep, fundamental need to connect, to love, and to feel seen by other people. Valentine's Day, whether it's through a handmade note or a box of chocolates, just gives us a reason, like a permission slip really, to express those feelings out loud.
So the next time you see a red heart, you'll know the long, incredible, winding story that brought it to you, all the way from a wild Roman field through a dark prison cell and across the pages of a poet's book. It's a great reminder that while the traditions may change, our need to connect with each other, that stays the same. And that's something worth celebrating, not just on one day, but every single day.